Hola, buenos dias, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Bright Ideas in Spanish Classroom podcast with Martina. And today we have a very special guest. Today is the very first podcast ever. And we have a very special guest, Lady, my friend Lady Garcia. Hi, Lady.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Very excited to be here.
Nice, excellent. So tell us very quickly, where are you right now? Where are you talking us from?
So I'm talking to you from Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic.
Excellent. Is it hot there?
It is, as always.
As always, that is the truth. So my friend Lady is actually a very special friend of mine, but also a very special person. He works with one of the foundations from Northern New Hampshire, the Bateyes Foundation. And so to begin with, can you please tell us a little bit about your work? So what do you do for us? Not for us, for the Bateyes Foundation. I've been a few times with the Bateyes Foundation. Wonderful, wonderful organization. So what does your work consist of?
So with the Bateyes Foundation, my main work is as a program director. So I basically kind of like sort out the logistics of the programs when the students are here, excursions, projects, and kind of being like the bridge between, the U.S. and the DR and the organization in our communities.
Nice. How did you actually start working for the Bateyes Foundation? How did you start working with this type of work?
So I first got involved with a worldwide organization called Lions Club.
Mm-hmm.
They also do community service all around the world, and there are Lions Clubs everywhere. So I basically started doing volunteering work with them, with their club for the youth called the Lions Club. So I started volunteering with them. And so the Lions Club work with a lot of other organizations that kind of also operates in these communities. And that's how I got basically in touch with the Bateyes Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's the relationship began.
So when we talk about the Bateyes Foundation, the Batey is not actually English word. Can you explain to us what does it mean? What does it stand for? The Batey? A Batey?
Yeah, so a Batey is a word used or given to Asian communities that came to work in the sugarcane plantations in the fields. So back in the 1930s, 1960s, when Trujillo was the dictator of the country, the president, he brought a lot of Haitians with a permit to the DR to work in the sugarcane factories. So they were allowed to work and live in these fields of sugarcane, but they didn't allow them to leave the premises of the sugarcane factories. So basically, they built small communities within the sugarcane fields, so they could live there and work. And that in those communities is what they started calling Bateyes.
Mm-hmm. Are these communities still involved with the sugar industry?
Not all of them. So nowadays there are a lot of Bateyes that is just basically like these communities still exist, but the sugar factories don't. So there are in a lot of Bateyes where the sugarcane kind of just like went out of business. And people just continue to live there because they didn't have anywhere else to live. Like since day one when they came, they lived in this community. So they continue to live generation after generation, even though the sugarcane business was no longer, operational in these areas.
So interesting. I think very unique history. So when you said that you're working in this area for like pretty much like 10 years, about 10 years, you said?
Yeah. Yeah, about like 10 years ago, I started volunteering with the Lions Club, and then short after, I also started volunteering with the Bateyes Foundation for a few more years.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and that's where I basically began. I was in high school, I believe.
Oh my goodness. So if you think, back 10 years ago, right? Imagine you were probably a volunteer, and now these days, what do you see? Is there a progress? Is there a change?
So back then versus now, back then when I started volunteering, um, there was a lot of necessities in these communities.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely through work that I've been participating in, some of those things have gotten better because definitely that's kind of like our goal, is to help the community to improve their lives. Um, so in a lot of areas, a lot of things have improved. But in a lot of these bateys in this community, there's still a lot of need. These communities are not benefited as well as other communities by the government, because in some of these communities there's still a lot of people that that live there that are like past generations of those people that came a long time ago, and a lot of them might not even still have papers and stuff. So the governments don't focus as much on these communities as they do with others.
Mm-hmm.
So always have needs for things, like needs for water, needs for schools, needs for like places for kids to play. There's always need for everything, because in a lot of these communities, people are basically on their own.
Right. Thinking of your work, what do you consider the biggest challenge? Working for the Bateyes Foundation, trying to help these poor communities. What is the biggest challenge?
In my opinion, and like personally, I feel like the biggest challenge could be figuring out exactly what would be the best way that you can help them, and the best way that you can have a positive impact, because there's a lot of need, but
Mm-hmm.
like kind of like figuring out what is like the most important thing could be a little bit challenging at the beginning. Like once you figure that out, then everything else is a little bit easier, because it's just like executing towards accomplishing that. But before that, it could be a little bit challenging. You would have to really like listen to the community, figure out and talking to the community, to leaders, kind of like seeing what's going on, so you can understand exactly
Mm-hmm.
what are their most important, needs.
Absolutely, most important and maybe even more most urgent needs, definitely.
Exactly.
So I know from my own experience that you guys are very much involved with education and with the healthcare, or lack of healthcare, I should probably say. So it is September of 2020, and we are actually in the middle of world pandemic. So reflecting on the current situation, what is the impact the coronavirus actually had on the communities in general, and also on just the volunteer work?
Yeah, for the communities in general, this pandemic has had a big impact, um, on firstly on the people's life, the everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
So in a lot of these communities, parents, they work day after day after day after day.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them do work that that they get paid like by the day. So basically, if they don't work one day, then they cannot eat the next. So it was really difficult for a lot of people, because like everything was shut down,
Right.
and we were supposed to to stay indoors, um, to minimize the impact. But it was just too difficult for people that didn't really have like a backup plan kind of thing.
Right, plus also, isn't there like a problem with electricity in Dominican? Doesn't that make it even more difficult, the whole situation?
Yeah, the general problems with water, with electricity, with trash and all of that, that made it really, really, that made everything a little bit worse. With so little going on, because of the pandemic, everything was like becoming a bigger problem than what it already was.
Right.
And um, and then the follow up question I forgot.
We talked about the daily life, but what about the impact on the volunteer work?
Exactly. So impact on the volunteer work, that is another area that has definitely been like completely stopped, in all in all aspects. Um, Definitely like for locals organizations that are like here, that has been a little bit easier because you're already here and you can do some stuff. But for the type of work that we have, that I've been working with through the year, which is uh, um, international
Travels, works.
continuing travel. Definitely been very tough because of the borders being closed, because of how delicate it is now to travel and all of that. So we have definitely had to stop working in most of the stuff that we were working on, and we have definitely found some ways to still support the communities and continue to work. Um, but it has been a lot more slower than before. And definitely it's gonna take some time to for it to kind of like get back and start functioning again, and that also depends on how things continue to unfold.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, I can only imagine. So, thinking of the future, what are your hopes for the future? What do you foresee happening?
For me, my hopes are that we can we can take away things from this experience of the pandemic and everything, to start making things better in the future, to think about what's really important, to think about what's really necessary, and we can hopefully change some things, so we can do things better. For example, like now education is going virtual, right? And that here in the DR there was little of, like, the government didn't really do that much of an effort to invest on, like, really teaching students to, like, use computers to to send classes and stuff like that, and the teachers, right? Government has to take the step of training teachers and providing schools and students with new materials, so they can provide the education in a different way than before.
Absolutely. It can be a difficult
and
transition.
Yeah, it can be a difficult transition, but it can be something good. It could be the push that this country had, so they could change the way they were teaching, the way that the schools were implementing the classes, and the way the students were studying. So I think it could be something good. Um, there has definitely been a lot of tough times and a lot of difficult situations, but once we start to get back in our feet, we can definitely rise up even better than we were before.
That is one of the many reasons I love Dominican Republic and I love Dominicans, because no matter what, everything is always seen from positive way, and you just don't let any situation to bring you guys down. And I really, really have a great appreciation for that. That's for sure. Well, lady, thank you so much for this interview. Thank you, thank you. I wish you the best, and to the Bate Foundation as well. I really hope the situation is going to get back to, at least acceptable normal, so that the volunteer groups are going to get back to help the Bateyes. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for this interview. It was an honor for me, and I'm really happy that we got to reconnect and kind of like reflect on everything.
Me too. Thank you so much. And to everybody else, thank you so much for listening to the Bright Ideas in Spanish Classroom podcast with Martina. Have a wonderful day.